We will talk about questionnaire and scale development. Okay. Now, a questionnaire, how should it be actually? Questionnaire में क्या क्या कैसे रहना चाहिए एक क्वेश्चन just give me a second. I go to this presentation. First of all, it should avoid complexity. मतलब सिंपल कन्वर्सेशनल लैंग्वेज में होना चाहिए. या अभी जब रेस्पोंडेंट को क्वेश्चन समझे ही नहीं तो कोई फायदा नहीं है. ही इज गोइंग टू जस्ट पुट अ टिक मार्क wherever he feels, right? Instead of answering the question. My primary motive is to get data, and therefore, what do? We're going to avoid complex language, and then avoid many other things which we will see what we have to avoid. So it has to be very simple, and it should be in a conversational language. जो language में हम बात करते हैं, technical terms जितना हो सके avoid करें, right? And complex language avoid करें. Avoid leading and loaded questions. मतलब you should not prompt the respondent. उनको कुछ जवाब देना चाहिए. Say for example, how would you want to reach a place? Would you like to take right? Would you like to take left? नहीं. He should answer on his own. बराबर? And it should avoid ambiguity. मतलब एकदम specific रहना चाहिए. एकदम like it should not be like do you say for example, what do you consume for breakfast, right? Do you consume cereals? Do you consume say fatty food? तो fatty food में क्या क्या आते हैं? Cereal is specific. Do you consume milk and bread? All these are specific. Do you consume fatty food? Respondent को क्या है? Fatty food मतलब क्या पता चलेगा, right? सब में तो fat है. Double barrel question. Like for example, I would say, do you feel more or less stressed? More stressed? Yeah, less stressed, right? Can you not make it that way? Do you feel stressed or do you not feel stressed? दोनों एक ही क्वेश्चन कैसे बोल सकते हो? समझ में आ रहा है आपको? जब क्वेश्चन ड्राफ्ट करते हो, यू शुड बी स्पेसिफिक. आपको स्ट्रेस ज़्यादा लगता है, सपोजिंग व्हेन यू हियर नॉइस, व्हेन देयर इज अ नॉइस पोल्यूशन, do you feel your headaches, right? I will say instead of that, if I write it as do you actually get a headache or not, वो किसको टिक करेगा? It's a double barrel question, right? Avoid making assumptions. आप assumption नहीं करो. इन्वेस्टिगेटर रेस्पोंडेंट क्या बोलने वाला है करके आप assume मत करो. उसके मन में क्या है आप assume मत करो. You just float it openly. Let him or her respond. And avoid burdensome question. एकदम like he has to think a lot and answer. ऐसे questions पूछो मत. So be specific and be don't give leading questions. Also don't give a misleading question जो उसको जिसके लिए भी जवाब नहीं है फिर सोच के कुछ करना है करके करता है ऐसे मत करो. And then be specific instead of being ambiguous. Avoid double barrel questions, avoid making assumptions, avoid burdensome questions. Now, questionnaire design. First of all, to be effective, it should be done with the respondent in mind. मैं respondent को मन में रखते हुए करती हूँ. Nobody else. समझ में आ रहा है? First of all, I should avoid complexity. As I told you, simple conversational language. Right? All these are to be done keeping in mind the question, the respondent in mind. I should first of all have proper language. And first and foremost question has to ask ourselves as a researcher is, first of all, what will I ask? What language is the respondent going to understand? Right? Simple English, even if you're drafting it in English, common people को दे रहे हो, draft it in a simple English. एकदम हाई फाई इंग्लिश किसी को नहीं चाहिए. हिंदी में ड्राफ्ट करते हो एकदम अच्छे तरह से, मुझे भी समझ में आना चाहिए, राइट? यू शुड नॉट ड्राफ्ट इट कीपिंग इन माइंड वैभव, आशुतोष, अनु एंड ऑल, राइट? यू शुड कीप इन माइंड मी कि मैम को समझ में आना चाहिए. समझ में आया? And the questionnaire must be designed such that should be used in the language concerned. This does not primarily mean it has to be printed in each language which it has to be administered. मतलब हर एक लैंग्वेज में मुझे हिंदी वाले रेस्पोंडेंट्स को देना है, इंग्लिश वाले रेस्पोंडेंट्स को देना है, मराठी स्पीकिंग रेस्पोंडेंट्स को देना है, तमिल स्पीकिंग रेस्पोंडेंट्स को देना है, ऐसे सोच सोच के हर लैंग्वेज में प्रिंट करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. बट सिंपल कॉमन लैंग्वेज विच कैन बी अंडरस्टूड बाय ऑल, ऐसे एक लैंग्वेज में भी प्रिंट कर सकती हूँ, राइट. And questionnaire printed must be in English, must be administered to the respondents in the local language, right? He speaks by trained interviewer. एक ही language में print करके कोई trained interviewer को लगा सकती हूँ. He can translate it for you. In case I don't understand English, somebody can translate it for me. If I am the respondent, can translate it in Tamil for me. I can appoint somebody for that. Alternatively, न्यूमेरिक कोड्स जो है वो न्यूमेरिक कोड्स फॉर आंसर्स इन यूजुअल नंबर्स लाइक ABC रख सकती हूँ, 1 2 3 रख सकती हूँ. 1 2 3 तो एवरीबडी अंडरस्टैंड्स, रोमन नंबर्स अंडरस्टैंड कर सकते हैं वो. दोस 1 2 3 लाइक आई गिव यू एन एनोटेशन यहाँ पे करूँगी, मैं स्लाइड शो गोस ऑफ थैंक्स. ठीक है. So all the number values can be understood and all the translations must be as consistent with original language as possible. समझ में आ रहा है? The language that should be used is very simple, right? I don't need to print the questionnaire in all possible languages. One language I can print and I can appoint people to translate it to different people, people even if they don't understand the English. And then apart from that, I can use numeric codes as much as possible. Are you following? If it's a Hindi printed questionnaire, instead of using E, etc. for numbering the questions, I can use 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, everybody understands everywhere, right? And talking about the difficulty level, technical jargons जो है, technical terms or jargons जो है, that should be completely avoided. Technical terms, jargon bola to, like for example, I will say bulls and bears. These technical terms we know, but do you think, like say, I prepare a questionnaire for investment decision by investors. So say, will you buy in a bullish market? तो बुलिश मार्केट मेरे को समझ में आता है, आप लोगों को समझ में आएगा. बट विल अ नॉन फाइनेंस पर्सन अंडरस्टैंड? He will be wondering what this bullish market is, right? Are you following? Unless he is experienced or he is familiar with the term bullish, bearish, etc., he will not understand. So I must keep in mind the respondent, right? And apart from that, fatigue. Any unnecessary questions must be avoided and the questionnaire should be as short as possible. If it is going to be used as an interview schedule, सेम क्वेश्चनर को अगर मैं इंटरव्यू शेड्यूल बनाऊं तो भी मैक्सिमम 20 मिनट्स होना चाहिए. ज़्यादा करेंगे लोग भी थक जाएंगे. फाइनली इवन इफ दे वांट टू आंसर, चलो 45 मिनट्स लग रहा है वो इंटरव्यू के लिए, दे विल से चलो आई फिनिश द क्वेश्चनर बिकॉज माय फ्रेंड हैज आस्क्ड करके कुछ भी जवाब देने लगेंगे, वेदर इट इज ट्रू और नॉट. सो योर डेटा विल नॉट बी करेक्ट. Cooperation with researcher. Now, first of all, you should encourage the respondent to respond, right? You should cooperate with the researcher. Personal interviews may you have to introduce the subject. This is why I am doing. It's a part of my research and I want to collect data from you. I know that you are investing. All these things, first of all, develop a rapport with the respondent, right? If it is going to be a floated questionnaire, वहाँ पे आप introduction देते हैं. Dear colleagues, I would request you to kindly answer this questionnaire as it is a part of my research. You doing it will be very, very helpful for me when I conduct the research, right? And then when I talk about questionnaires, like which there, as I told you, there should be an introduction. And in mail questionnaire, you should have a cover letter stating the purpose. I will show you what a cover letter looks like later on. Okay. Now, cover letter, like it will tell you it is a PhD thesis and this will be, the data will be maintained with utmost confidentiality. I request you to answer the questions, forward it to your friends, all these things. Now, talking about social desirability bias, right? Bias का मतलब है partiality kind of. समझ में आ रहा है आपको? So there is a tendency on the part of the respondents to give wrong but socially acceptable responses to the most ordinary questions. Like for example, do you read the daily newspaper? Even if I don't read, I will say yes, right? Because I want to be socially accepted. I'll say, do you watch CNBC News? Dekha to hi-fi, right? Supposing investment decision. CNBC News channel, CNBC News channel dekhte ho. So I feel it is prestigious to say yes, and I will answer. Barabar? So, and there are some questions to verify the accuracy of responses. Like, for example, repeating the same questions in the questionnaire in different places, right? Like if it has to be effective response, I will say yes. And there are two other questions following it. What are the times when you see? What are the items that you see? Correct? I can always verify. So if he states it correctly and वो time पे वो नहीं आता है, correct? That particular say news doesn't come at that time, then probably I can assume that he has just marked it, right? Asking indirect questions and then allowing follow-up questions to probe the respondents, just as I said. कितने बजे को देखते हो, क्या क्या आइटम्स देखते हो CNBC में, what type of things do you watch, right? For example, we could ask the respondent to state one important headline or describe the story that he remembers. If he states about the newspaper of the same day, previous day newspaper, and deliberately introducing non-existent, as I told you, what kind of advertisements do you watch? What kind of advertisements do you pause? Do you wait till the advertisement plays fully? All these things. Are you following? Questionnaire that it has to be carried on the field. Data may be recorded while standing awkward postures. Like for example, when you're questioning somebody and he's being recorded when he's in awkward position, sometimes you'll have to go to the field, ensure it is easy to carry, visible in different kinds of light, etc. It should not create any kind of confusion. You have seen recorded interviews कि मैंने इसको interview किया, right? They need evidence at times. Sometimes टीवी में जब interview करते हैं उनके लिए भी चाहिए, etc. But it has to be recorded in such a way that it is easy to view. And if the questionnaire is coded before doing the field work, we'll talk about coding in the next chapter. Okay? Most questionnaires are coded because we need to understand how to analyze the data. Like for example, if it is male 1, female 2. So instead of having it as a string response, we code it in numbers, right? And this should be done after the data is collected, and the researcher should do it after it is done. And now invest instructions for navigation. Now questions should be printed, right? Instructions must be printed properly. Like for example, if you agree with this question, go to question number 9 and so on, right? Apart from that, when you sequence the questions एक दूसरे के बाद रखते हो, तो you cannot say, for example, usage of particular brand of shoes, right? Say you're not going to start with what shoes you use, etc. You're going to sequence it with the starting of demographic features of the respondent, age, gender, and then socio-economic, income, occupation, etc. वैसे सीक्वेंस में होना चाहिए, पहले वो सब, and then later on you write about the shoes. Then it doesn't, respondent feels very very uncomfortable to answer the question. He may even get suspicious, he may even stop responding, and he wants to be very comfortable while answering. Quite often people don't even ये क्या है, क्यों देते हो, they ask you, right? So when you ask such questions which are not sequenced, you can ask like, at what price do you buy the shoes? And then you ask, do you at all use shoes? Then it makes no sense. So एकदम sequential होना चाहिए. And biased and leading questions must be avoided. Like, for example, do you think democracy in India is a good idea? Do you think this political party should be in power? Right? All these things are quite leading, and it is quite biased also to answer. Not everybody will feel comfortable to answer. Monotony मतलब एकदम we say like one indicator that a questionnaire is monotonous मतलब एकदम bored हो जाते हैं. For if he answers agree, like for example हर question को हम लोग क्या करते हैं एकदम बोर होते हैं तो सेम रिस्पॉन्स एग्री डिसएग्री एक एक क्वेश्चन को आई एग्री 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 डाल देते हैं. आपने देखा है काफी बच्चे फीडबैक के लिए क्या दूं मुझे पसंद नहीं है फिर भी मैं दे देता हूँ. स्ट्रांगली एग्री स्ट्रांगली एग्री स्ट्रांगली एग्री एक्सेलेंट 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 बराबर. सो नाउ व्हाट हैपेंस नाउ रिसर्चर must think before he uh, has such questions to avoid such answers, right? He must resequence the questions which force the respondents to think before, like हर चीज में ले पहले देखो मैंने लिखा था teachers effectiveness and then the next time I'll say does the teacher communicate subject with you. उसके लिए आप excellent excellent तो नहीं दे सकते हो. So again you need to think. And again, analysis has to be there. A questionnaire design is dependent on the analysis. What analysis you are going to require, for which we are going to talk about measurement scales. So far, we were talking about how should a questionnaire be, how should a questionnaire not be for effective data collection. Now we will see measurement of scale, very, very important. There are four major types of scales: nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio scale. What are the four major types? Nominal scale, ordinal scale, interval scale, and ratio scale. Nominal scale जो है ना सबसे basic scale है, right? It uses labels with no numerical sanctity. For example, we may, as I told you, number 1 for male, number 2 for females. Number 1 for true, number 2 for false, right? So 1 and 2 in this case do not represent any order or distance, but they represent the characteristics. Characteristics, समझ में आ रहा है? When I say 1 is true, 2 is false, 1 is female, 2 is male, they do not represent any distance या कोई numerical value नहीं है उसमें. They just coded value, right? So, but then they are valid nominal scale. We can use the nominal scale to indicate categories of variables which is not to be given a numerical significance. Like for example, which is your favorite restaurant for a fast food? I will say Burger King, McDonald's, Kentucky's Fried Chicken, and then say some uh, Hungry Jacks or Star Restaurant. Okay, so I will say 1, 2, 3, 4. Are you following? But यहाँ पे 1, 2, 3, 4 do not represent any numerical value, but they are associated with the names of restaurants. समझ में आ रहा है?
Yes, ma'am.
Any doubts?
No, ma'am, no doubt.
Nominally scaled variables cannot be used to perform statistical computations such as mean, median, mode, etc. Right? Because they do not have any meaning. So what we do is we code them. We will see that in the later chapter, right? But counting of number, like हम क्या करेंगे? इनको कैसे करते हैं? इनको how many people have said number 1? How many people have said number 2? We have done that kind of an analysis before, right? Average student, above average student, below average student, toppers. 4 कैटेगरीज है. तो हम देखते हैं एक पर्टिकुलर कोर्स में कितने एवरेज स्टूडेंट्स हैं, क्या कितने 1, 2, 3, 4 है कि नहीं? समझ में आ रहा है? When you analyze this kind of a data, nominal scale में दिए हुए डेटा को आप काउंट करते हो, फ्रीक्वेंसी देखते हो, number of ones, number of twos, number of threes, etc. Right? There are different types of analysis available, like cross tabulation, and then we will learn these later when we learn data analysis. थोड़ा बहुत introduction देती सबका. And then you may perform a chi-square test on the nominal scale data. See, all these are analysis which I will teach you when we do data analysis. Okay? I will repeat this part, teach you. And simple tabulation, we call it as frequency tables. मतलब number of people in category 1, number of people in category 2, percentage, ये सब हम frequency analysis करके बोलते हैं. How frequently they occur in the data set. Now the next part is ordinal scale. Nominal scale समझ में आया? Understood nominal scale? Students?
Yes, ma'am.
Ordinal, यहाँ पे they have meaningful numbers. Typical marketing variable ranks. Like for example, they are interchangeable. Rank 1 means highest rank, rank 2 means next rank, rank 3 means third rank. This is called as ordinal scale, where the numbers have meanings. They are attached to the variables. Instead of 1, 2, 3, etc., we can use any other numbers to prefer. Like for example, 3, 10, 15 also could be used. Now what happens is, for example, when I say in statistics, when we use ordinal scale, we can have mean, median, percentile, everything, rank correlation, ये सब भी हम perform कर सकते हैं. Like for example, supposing you go to fast food center, as I told you, there are 4 fast food centers I told you. Like we had McDonald's, we had what did I say, Kentucky's Fried Chicken, and then we had Burger King, and then we said Hungry Jacks. ये 4 है. And then we can even have Gupta Bhelpuri. ठीक है 5. ये 5 में rank them in the order of your preference. ठीक है उसमें काफ़ी categories देती हूँ. Taste, cost, where they are located, ease of access, सारे criteria देती हूँ. हर एक में आपको rank करना है. In terms of taste, my Gupta Bhelpuri is the first one, right? Then comes my Kentucky's Fried Chicken, then Burger King, then McDonald's, right? And so on. Subway, and so on. समझ में आ रहा है? But then, in the given then I can also have the mean median mode performed on the ranking itself. Are you following? Are you following? Should I demonstrate with a
Yes,
one?
ma'am.
If it's difficult, McDonald's, and then I have Subway, and then I have
यस मैम.
क्या है KFC क्या है?
हेलो मैम. हाँ मैम वो पिज्जा का ब्रांच है मैम.
पिज्जा का ब्रांच है.
हाँ मैम.
Anybody else?
Ma'am, it's a chicken.
चिकन मैम
Kentucky
चिकन का
का
ब्रांड.
Chicken.
हाँ मैम वही.
आशुतोष दिखा देता है मुझे सबके सामने. Now I'm telling you, rank the restaurants, okay, based on your preferences. Okay, this is one thing. Next, based on affordability or pricing, based on pricing. Okay, based on say locations where, or say based on accessibility. मतलब जहाँ पे है आप जल्दी जा सकते हो. ठीक है. आई एम गोइंग टू रैंक देम. अभी मुझे लगता है बेस्ड ऑन माय प्रेफरेंस से टेस्ट. So supposing based on taste 1, वो भी दे देती हूँ. 1 मतलब most preferred. यहाँ पे ये वो भी explanation दे देती हूँ. 1 most preferred, right? 5 least preferred, least. ठीक है. 5 सबसे कम स्कोर है, 1 ज़्यादा स्कोर है. ठीक है. So I will say Subway 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Based on pricing, this is my perception. मुझे क्यों अच्छा लगता है? 5, 4, 3, 2, right? Based on accessibility, this is 5, this is 4, this is 2, 3, 1. ठीक है. मैंने रैंकिंग किया है. रैंकिंग से क्या है, क्या मैं इन पांचों का रैंक कोरिलेशन निकाल सकती हूँ? I can do mean, median, mode, and I can do any other statistical, because these numerical values do have a significance. Are you following? Ordinal scale में. So what is an interview scale? An interview scale जो है, you can compute all statistical measures such as जो भी उसका drawback है nominal and ordinal का, this captures it, right? You can compute lot of statistical measures here. Interview scale, interval scale, sorry. So interval scale है, you can say 1 to 5, measurement of attitudes 1 to 7, 1 to 10, etc. You can rate, rating scale, वो वाला आपने rank किया था, याद है? I prefer this to this. यहाँ पे I will say, how do you feel when you go to McDonald's? Say again, I will demonstrate my whiteboard. Is that okay with you? I will give you my whiteboard example here. वापस same example, ठीक है? How do you feel when you go to McD for a party? ठीक है? What is McD? When you go to, say all the restaurants लिखती हूँ, okay? Dash for a party. I hope you understand what is A, B, C. I'm not rewriting, or I can't copy paste also. A, as usual, is Kentucky's Fried Chicken, right? लिख देती हूँ, वो भी confusion है. KFC.
Yes, ma'am. KFC full form.
BK, C, McD, D, Subway, E, GBP. GBP is Gupta Belpuri, correct? So rate from 1 to 5. Okay, 1 is equal to very happy, and 5 is equal to very unhappy or very boring. ठीक है, समझ में आ रहा? So they give a rating of say 1, 2, sorry 2, मतलब they are neutral here. Okay, समझ में आ रहा है आपको? When I go
Yes,
to
ma'am.
KFC, I feel very happy. When I go to Burger King, I feel very happy, right? When I go to McDonald's, I am okay. And when I go to Subway sandwiches, I am happy. And even Gupta Belpuri, I am very happy. I am happy. बस समझ में आ रहा है आपको?
Yes, ma'am.
ये आप 1 to 5 रैंकिंग दे रहे हो, वहाँ पे क्वेश्चनर में आपको 1 to 5 टिक ऑन एनी ऑफ दीज बोलते हैं ना, एग्री, स्ट्रांगली, डिसएग्री वगैरह.
Ma'am, stars.
हाँ, 5 stars. That is also right. समझ में आ रहा है? Let's go back to my PPT. That is what is an interval scale. You are giving an interval for the respondents to choose. कस्टमर सेटिस्फैक्शन वगैरह वैसे मार्केटिंग रिसर्च के लिए ज़्यादातर यूज़ किए जा सकते हैं. यहाँ पे आप क्या काफ़ी स्टैटिस्टिकल कंप्यूटेशन एनालिसिस यूज़ कर सकते हैं. योर कार्ल पियर्सन्स कोएफिशिएंट ऑफ कॉरलेशन याद है, ये सब क्यूएम में पढ़े थे. देन वी कैन यूज़ स्टैंडर्ड डिविएशन, परसेंटाइल, क्वार्टाइल, जो भी चाहिए आप कर सकते हो. राइट. डिफरेंस बिटवीन इंटरवल स्केल एंड ऑर्डिनल स्केल जो है, फर्क क्या है कि यहाँ पे 1 and 2 is the same as distance between 2 and 3, right? Whereas in an interval scale में ये फर्क है. वहाँ पे क्या है, रैंक करते हो आप, इससे ये प्रेफर्ड है, उससे वो प्रेफर्ड है. समझ में आ रहा है? आर यू फॉलोइंग? यस, नो?
Yes, ma'am.
यहाँ पे आप अपना से सेटिस्फैक्शन पैरामीटर या डिससेटिस्फैक्शन पैरामीटर दिखा रहे हो, जहाँ पे 1 to 2 का डिस्टेंस जो है ना, 2 to 3 दोनों इक्वल है. 1 to 2 इज इक्वल टू 2 to 3 का डिस्टेंस है. बट वेयर एज यहाँ पे यू आर रैंकिंग, आई प्रिफर दिस टू दिस. आर यू फॉलोइंग? नाउ व्हेन
Yes,
आई
ma'am.
all arithmetic operations are performed. Now we talk about the next scale, ratio scale. All the arithmetic operations are performed on a ratio scale, including your geometric and harmonic mean, right? And then when you talk about this, all your standard deviation, t test, f test, ये सब आप perform करते हो. दो means को compare करते हो, right? दो standard deviation को compare करते हो. Ratio type scale में क्या है? There is a unique or a beginning point of interval scale, right? And again, ratio scale corresponds to the same ratio on the measured variables. Like for example, which is 2 meters to 1 meter as 2 meters, 2 kilometers to 1 kilometers. Like your age, ratio scale like 20 to 25, 25 to 30, 30 to 35. समझ में आ रहा है? Your income category, all these are ratio scale. Are you following, all of you? Questions देते हो ना?
Yes, ma'am.
Your age, 20 to 25, 25 to 30, बराबर? So that is the ratio scale. Any doubts here?
Ma'am, can you please share whiteboard again? I want to take screenshot.
Sure. See, you are asking a respondent. मैं दूसरा पेज जाती हूँ, ठीक है? So you're going to ask a respondent. Ratio scale. Questionnaire में आप question age, right? 25 to 30, 35 to 40, 45 to 50, 55 to 60. ठीक है? You ask the respondent to tick on any of these. Income in rupees. I will say in rupees. Right? 25,000, 35,000, 35,000, 45,000, 5,000 to 55,000, 55,000, 65,000. You ask the respondent to tick on any of this, correct? समझ में आ रहा है? Students,
Yes, ma'am.
say frequency of visiting a fast food restaurant in a week. Okay, 0 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 6. Right? Pick any of these. अभी समझ में आ रहा है? तो यहाँ पे कैसे आपने रेशियो स्केल बनाया है? ये डिस्टेंस देखो, यहाँ पे भी 5 का फर्क है, 5 का फर्क है, 5 का फर्क है. Any doubts here? You are giving a range. Know how to draft an effective questionnaire. What should be your do's and don'ts? Then we discussed about various scales. What were the 4 types of scales? Nominal, ordinal, interval and ratio. ठीक है? समझ में आया?
Yes, ma'am.
So I'll stop
Yes, ma'am.
here.
Yes, ma'am.